Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Dr. Rafia Kutab. I'm the chair of the Liaison Committee, APPNA, with other medical organizations. Today's webinar is the whole concept behind this webinar is it actually is a series of webinar that, to reach out to all the ITPs, which is the internationally trained physicians, about the concept of these pathways and, what is the process behind it, how they are made, what is the requirement, how it's been credentialed, how it's been implemented, and who are the bodies behind it. So these webinars we will be doing in collaboration with the FSMB, which is the Federation of State Medical Board, and our different states medical boards members and medical societies members in different states and our APPNA members. The goal is to bring the transparent information to all the internationally trained physicians who are going to pursue their career in USA as physicians, but not going through the traditional residency programs. We all know that right now there is a shortage, national shortage, and even global shortage of the physician, and especially in the underserved areas. And that's where we need the more primary care and the behavioral health care providers. And mostly these pathways are created for this reason, that we will mitigate this shortage of the physicians in USA. And it is very commendable through the USA, United States, that they are flexible and they know the problem and they are trying to mitigate it, and they are creative and, trying to find ways how to bring all these internationally trained physicians to America through this hard process of residency, avoiding that and bringing them to mitigate this issue. Recently, when I went to Pakistan, there are lots of medical students. They reached out to me from Fatima Jinnah Medical College, Allama Iqbal Medical College, King Edward, Sheikh Zayed, you name any. And they wanted to know how they can be a good fit for these pathways. But one thing was made me to start these webinars is that they did not know how to start this process. And I did not want to tell them something, which I was not fully comfortable telling them. So when I came back, I reached out to who can be the better than that, the Federation of State Medical Board, Dr. Humayun Chaudhry, who is the president and the CEO of the FSMB. And I reached out to Dr. Sanaullah, who is an ex-secretary of APPNA, who is now the member of the Oklahoma State Medical Board, that how we can reach out to these students and tell them the right way how to start the process, what things they will be needing during this process, how they can be a best fit for these pathways. And Dr. Humayun, Dr. Sana, they were all ecstatic about it, and they said, why not? Let's join it. Let's help these students. And then I reached out to my committee, my members. They were also very excited about it. And there you go. We are here to help you guys. One thing also, these students, they were falling into the trap of the agents and recruiters with big promises that they will get them the job over here, and they were paying the hefty fee. So I think whoever is listening today should be mindful about it, that there is a process. And I don't think so that these recruiters and these agents will be able to get you a job without going through the proper channel. And I think with the end of this webinar, we will be able to understand this whole process. And the format for today would be that Dr. Humayun Chaudhry, he will be presenting. And then afterwards, we will ask few questions to him. Then we will go to Dr. Sanaullah, who is the board member of the Oklahoma board, and he will talk about the pathways of the Oklahoma Medical State Board, and we will be asking questions. After that, if we have some time, we will take questions from the audience. So now I will go to our very honorable guest, Dr. Humayun Hank Chaudhry. He is a DEO, MACP, FRCP, President and CEO, Federation State of Medical Board, which operates the Federation Credentials Verification Services, FCVS, and co-owns the United States Medical Licensing Examination, USMLE, with the National Board of Medical Examiners. He's a clinical associate professor of medicine at the George Washington University School of Medicine and Health Sciences in Washington, D.C. In 2022 and 2023, Modern Healthcare recognized him as one of the 100 most influential people in healthcare. Dr. Chaudhary is a graduate of NYU, the NYIT College of Osteopathic Medicine, and the Howard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Dr. Chaudhary is a past president of the American College of Osteopathic Internists, a master of the American College of Physicians, and a fellow of the Royal College of Physicians, London and Edinburgh. Dr. Chaudhary was in U.S. Air Force Reserve from 1999 to 2013, where he rose to the rank of major and served as flight surgeon. He is an author of and co-author of more than 90 reviewed articles in the medical literature and co-author of 2 books. He is a secretary of the International Association of Medical Regulatory Authorities, IAMRA, which represent 49 nations. There you go, Dr. Chaudhary. It's your turn now to tell us about all these pathways and the role of the FSMB in the implementation process.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Rafia. Assalamu alaikum and Ramzan Mubarak to everyone on the call. I'd like to thank you as chair of the APPNA Liaison Committee for allowing me this opportunity to speak to everyone on this call, and for those who may watch after the program airs. It's a wonderful opportunity to give everyone a background. So I'm going to take maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I have about 15 slides to just explain the background and context of this process, and then happy to participate in questions with Dr. Sanaullah, who's a friend and colleague and represents one of our member boards, the Oklahoma Medical Board. A little background about the FSMB. The Federation of State Medical Boards was founded more than 100 years ago. It supports all of the nation's state medical licensing boards. I say that to point out that we don't have any direct connection with the specialty boards. Sometimes people confuse the FSMB with the specialty boards. That is run principally by the American Board of Medical Specialties, and for DOs, the American Osteopathic Association has specialty boards as well. So we have nothing to do with the specialty boards, only the licensing boards within the U.S., its territories, and the District of Columbia. Our boards, their primary mission is not to defend doctors. That's the role of groups like APPNA, AMA, American Osteopathic Association, and others, and the specialty societies. Our goal is to look out for the public. And so there's a mandate to protect the public's health, safety, and welfare by making sure that only those who are truly qualified to practice medicine are lawfully allowed to do so, whether they be physicians, physician assistants, or many other healthcare professionals. We do not oversee licensing of nurses or pharmacists. Those are 2 other organizations. We are perhaps best known among medical students, especially around the world, as one of the co-sponsors of the U.S. MLE, the United States Medical License Examination, which of course is required for all MDs, whether in the U.S. or abroad, to become licensed. This is the principal pathway. Many thousands of osteopathic physicians take it as well, but they have a separate licensing examination they call the COMLEX examination, but the majority of physicians take the USMLE. The FSMB is a partner with the National Board of Medical Examiners, and together we run the examination. I will say that when I was a medical student, little did I know that one day I would be one of the people in charge of the USMLE. So always keep your options open. You never know what the future holds. So this is our current board of directors. I'm seated there with my purple tie, and to my left is the current chair of the FSMB, Dr. George Abraham, who is an eminent physician, infectious disease specialist in Massachusetts, an international medical graduate himself from India, who is a good friend and totally understands the issues related to IMGs. We also in the back, towards my right, the gentleman who's standing with the red tie is Dr. Ram Raju, who is the former CEO of the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation. He's also an eminent surgeon in this case, and he's also an IMG. So we have some IMG representation on our board of directors, but we obviously represent the nation's state medical boards, and there are IMGs and physicians in obviously all of them. So let's talk about the number of physicians in the United States. The FSMB, we have records on every physician. So we do a census every 2 years. And in our last census, which was published in 2025, so this is 2024 data, there are a total of 1,082,187 physicians, MDs, DOs, US graduates, international graduates. Of these, nearly 25% are IMGs. They are in all 50 states and the District of Columbia, and the workforce has grown since 2010, but there are still significant disparities, maldistributions, and not enough physicians around the country. Where do IMGs principally come from? It used to be India was number one and Pakistan was number two, but in the past couple of years, the Caribbean region has now overtaken both India and Pakistan. There are now 57,000 licensed physicians who graduated from a medical school in the Caribbean. It used to be that the Caribbean graduates, about half of them were US citizens and the other half were from all over the world, including Pakistan. But that has now shifted. Almost 2/3 of the graduates of the schools in the Caribbean are actually US citizens. The second largest group is India. There are 52,000 licensed physicians in the US who graduated from a medical school in India. And since these numbers are a couple of years old, there are definitely more than 16,000 physicians of Pakistani medical education practicing and licensed in the US. The fourth largest group is from Philippines and then Mexico. But we get physicians from everywhere, from more than 2,392 medical schools to be precise, from 171 countries around the world. And there's been a 32% growth in IMGs since 2010 as well. And many of you may be familiar with this. I borrowed this slide from my colleagues at ECFMG. This is the traditional IMG pathway to medical licensure in the US. It starts off with a larger group who apply. You have to take the USMLE Step 1, the USMLE Step 2 CK, clinical knowledge. You have to do one of 6 pathways, and then you have to take the English language test. Plus, you have to have your medical school diploma and transcript verified by ECFMG. If you make it through that pathway, and many do, of course, the next step is to match, to apply to residency using the electronic residency application service. And as part of that process, as you match and get into a graduate medical education accredited program, you obtain a visa if you're a foreign citizen, and you take at some point, typically in the first year, near the end of your first year of training, you take the USMLE Step 3. This ultimately leads to eligibility for state medical licensure and ultimately state specialty board certification as well. And as the nation, our nation in the US, struggles with not enough physicians to take care of the growing and aging population, some of the states began to wonder about that part in red, the matching, the applying to residency programs. If you know the numbers, in the match last year in 2025 for PGY1 positions, 60.8% of all IMGs got matched, which is wonderful, but 40% did not. And by the way, 67.8% of US citizen IMGs match. So if you're a US citizen, that gives you a greater opportunity. But if you're not a US citizen, the numbers are not bad. They're 58%. But what about the other 42%? That's about 6,000 people who didn't match, who are qualified physicians. They have medical degrees. Many of them have training, and they didn't match, and they try again the following year or the following year. So the states began to wonder, are we doing everything possible to increase the physician pipeline for our needs, and began to wonder, why do we require physicians who are already trained overseas to seek training again? Maybe there's a way to figure this out. And so one of the first states to do this was Tennessee. In 2023, they passed a law to streamline licensure for physicians who are not only graduates of medical schools from far away, but also who had completed training and had practiced medicine in their countries for a few years at least. And so the need for this is apparent. So this is a map of the United States. Some of you may have seen this. These are all the rural and urban health professional shortage areas. If you look at the dark green and the dark blue, our nation, though in the larger cities, has enough physicians and enough specialists in most cases. Much of our country still has shortage of primary care physicians in particular, but this is throughout the entire country. So this is really a big problem. In Urdu, we might say that badal ki tarah ye chhaye hain. these health professional service areas. And so there's a need across almost every state in the United States for physicians, especially those in primary care. And so because Tennessee and a few other boards were starting to explore this opportunity, which had never been possible for decades, the FSMB, my organization, partnered with the ECFMG and the ACGME, the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education, to create this advisory commission on these additional licensing models for those IMGs who have already done training overseas. And so I was honored to be one of the co-chair. I'm sitting there in the bottom there on the right-hand side of your screen. With me are John Coombs from ACGME, Eric Hombo, the CEO of ECFMG/Intelth, and to his right is the former CEO of ACGME, Tom Naska. Behind us are CEOs and chairs of organizations like the AAMC, ACGME, the American Board of Medical Specialties. We have people from the World Federation of Medical Education, IAMRA, the International Association of Medical Regulatory Authorities, and then behind me to the right, just behind my right shoulder, the lady in black was the chair of the Tennessee Medical Board. And so we did have representation from the state medical boards as well, because we wanted to understand what's happening and give some recommendations to the state boards that if they're going to go down this pathway, what's the best way of doing that? And some of you may have seen our work that was published in Annals of Internal Medicine. There's been reports in JAMA about this as well. So as we started talking in 2024, the commission was created in December of 2023. We recognized that we can't keep calling them IMGs because these are more than IMGs. These are physicians who are not only graduates, they've completed residency training overseas in any number of fields, and they've already been in practice for 1 or more years. So the concept that we came up with was internationally trained physicians, or ITP. Again, as the definition states on this slide, it's a physician who received their medical degree and their training plus practice experience outside the US, and this could be an underutilized resource to address the provider shortages in the United States. Now, since Tennessee, a number of additional states have passed laws to do this, and I'll talk about which states they are in a moment, but this is something new, and this is something that we've not thought of before. So the Advisory Commission, one of its first set of guidance was issued in February of 2025. Again, this is a collaboration of FSMB, Intelth, and ACGME. We came up with 9 entry requirements for these sorts of pathways that we would recommend that states follow. One is obviously graduation from a recognized medical school from around the world. Second is not just a year or 2 of training, but completion of postgraduate training around the world, wherever they may be. Third is, in addition to completion of training, a clean license to practice in that country. What do I mean by clean license? A license that has not had a complaint or a disciplinary action against it. Now, we also felt there should be a limitation on the time out of practice. This pathway is not designed for someone who graduated from medical school overseas, did their training, practiced for a few years, and then has been out of practice for, let's say, 10 years, and suddenly sees this as an opportunity to come back to the United States. The idea is to have someone who is fresh, someone who's current, who understands the practice of medicine. And so our recommendation is that the states follow their own laws, many of which dictate how many years you cannot be out of practice before you seek re-entry into practice. And in most countries, or most states, I should say, that's about 2 years. So as long as you have not been out of practice for 2 to 3 years, our recommendation is you should be eligible for this type of pathway. Now, the other key piece of this is, unlike the residency matching, in this particular case, there should be an offer of employment prior to you even applying. And that employment offer must come from either a hospital that has a teaching program already in the United States, even though you're not entering the training program, but it has to be a hospital that has the understanding of what it means to supervise another physician, or it could be a federally qualified health center. It cannot be a physician in private practice who needs another doctor, because then there are conflicts of interest and the person may not be qualified to supervise them. And so the recommendation, which many states have followed, is that the employment offer must come from a hospital, a health system, or an FQHC. And then once you meet these criteria, the recommendation, which all of the states have followed, is you don't just give them a license to practice medicine. You want to make sure they understand the US healthcare system. So there should be a temporary period of provisional licensure. Could be 1 year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years. We leave the specifics up to the state, but a period of temporary provisional licensure to make sure they know what they're doing and they are indeed qualified makes sense and is a way to protect the public, to make sure that we're not just giving away licenses to anyone who seems to have the right credentials. And all of the states that have passed these laws have included that as a requirement. Finally, at the end of that temporary provisional licensure period, there should be some eligibility determination for full and unrestricted license. And then once you get that license, you can practice anywhere in that state. Now, could you practice in another state with that license? Not so easily, because most other states require training that's been done in the US. So you have not done training. All you've done is been supervised. So it may not be so easy to move to another state, but certainly within that state, you would be allowed to practice unrestricted. Finally, our recommendations are that the details, the rulemaking of this process should be delegated to the state medical board that knows how to do this. And finally, that there should be standard reporting requirements from the state board so we can keep track of how many people are applying, where are they applying from, what specialties do they have, and how many are ultimately successful. If the states just do it on their own and don't share that data, we won't really be educated. And then I should mention that one of the questions that comes up is, how do you know that training overseas is going to be recognized? And that's a big question, because we know that training varies around the world, and there is no global standard for postgraduate education. Now, having said that, the World Federation of Medical Education has embarked, as of last year, on a plan to begin to recognize countries that accredit medical schools and residency training programs. And it's possible that that kind of recognition could count towards this pathway. Another possibility, which we include in our report, and you can see our report on this QR code, is those physicians who have graduated from training programs in countries that are recognized by the ACGME-I, the ACGME International. And so this is I just got this from their website. The countries in dark blue are the countries that currently have ACGME-I accredited sponsoring institutions. Now you'll notice Pakistan is there. There are 2 accredited sponsoring institutions in Pakistan currently, the Shaukat Khanum Medical College, University Hospital, I should say, in Lahore, and the Aga Khan University Hospital in Karachi. Those are the only 2 recognized at the present time, but I know that more hospitals are exploring this, and Pakistan itself has been recognized by ACGMEI as one of the countries that are listed here. But there's only 14 countries. It doesn't include India, doesn't include Bangladesh, doesn't include many countries. But this could be a pathway, and many of the states have included ACGMEI recognized countries. Dr. Sanaullah will have to tell us if Oklahoma has done that. I don't know if they have, but this is one of the means by which the states are going to try to figure out whose qualifications matter and whose qualifications are equivalent to that in the United States. And then I'll just finish up by saying a second part of our guidance, which was issued in August of 2025, relates to that provisional licensure period. So they're coming in not as a resident, and they're not coming in as an attending physician. They're coming in as something in between, and they're supposed to be supervised. So the guidance for part 2 of this from the Advisory Commission is basically talking about what those supervising physicians should do to make sure that they get the necessary skills to be independent practicing physicians. And so we talk about how there are different stages. It's going to be very apparent very quickly those who are able to do more unsupervised, and there may be others that require more time before they become supervised. Our recommendation is that the supervisors must be physicians, MD, DO, or equivalent, ideally in the same specialty, and that the employees who would get paid, the ITPs, they have rights also. We want to make sure they're not abused by the system, and so they should demonstrate ability to engage in independent practice, but they must be taken into consideration for fair and equitable treatment. There's a real concern that we want to make sure physicians are not mistreated or misused. And then finally, this is the sort of where we are right now. The states in blue, including Tennessee and Oklahoma, are states that have passed this into law. But just because they pass this into law doesn't mean it becomes operational the next day. The state medical board has to put together the application, the details, and many states, even though they did this in the last couple of years, will take some time before those applications are put together, before they have figured all of this out. And so currently, we literally have less than 10 people in the entire country who are processing through these pathways. So we don't have a lot of experience to share, but as you can see, many states are interested. Not only the 18 states plus Guam and the Mariana Islands, but also 22 additional states have introduced legislation to consider this as well. So looking ahead, this is my last slide, and then I'm happy to turn it back to Dr. Afia and Dr. Sanaullah and others. So these are the concerns right now. The pipeline of applicants has been minimal. And so the rulemaking, the details of how the state boards will implement this is a lengthy process, may take a year or more. So this is not an immediate solution to the workforce shortages of our nation. And there are many unanswered questions about billing, malpractice insurance, CMS, federal programs, and so forth. Second, immigration uncertainties. Most of the physicians who come in through ERAS, who are IMGs, have J1 visas. About 15% of them have H1B visas, but the majority have J1 visas. For these pathways, the ITP pathways, unless you are a US citizen or unless you're a green card holder, it is more than likely that you would have to have an H1B employment visa. But as you may know, President Trump a few months ago or last year announced through executive decision that all applicants, new applicants for H-1B visas, their employer has to pay a $100,000 application fee. Our opinion is that if that holds, and right now there are no waivers for healthcare workers, but if that persists, these processes for ITPs will go nowhere because it is unlikely that smaller hospitals or FQHCs will be able to afford paying $100,000 for an application for an ITP, in addition to paying them salary and benefits to fill a workforce need. It's possible that the larger hospitals and health systems may be able to do that, but we're not going to see large numbers of people entering these pathways unless the immigration issue is addressed. So that's something to be aware of. And then finally, determinations of substantially similar training. Again, this may be a lengthy process because if you're not from a country that's ACGME recognized, or you're not from a country that is recognized by the World Federation of Medical Education, the process may take that much longer for the state medical board to decide that your training overseas is, quote, substantially similar to that provided in the US. So I'll stop there. And thank you again for the opportunity to take up so much time. Happy to address any questions. Thank you so much, Dr. Afia.
Thank you, Dr. Humayun. It was really very informative, and I think we have learned a lot from it. I have few quick kind of questions that if you can elaborate more into that, which, the last few months, these students were sending me these questions. How can ITP stay updated about these additional pathways?
So that's a great question. I would say that if you have a particular state in mind, is to monitor what that state is doing. Typically, their state medical board typically has a website. Not all of them do, but most of them do. And chances are that if this is being discussed or being implemented, there'll be something on that website. Or you could just do an AI search to see if that's happening in that state. Beyond that, all three of our organizations who are part of the advisory commission, FSMB, InThealth, which oversees ECFMG, and ACGME, also have websites where we're keeping track. Certainly FSMB, because our members are the state medical boards, we have probably the most recent data, but there are a number of ways that people can find out.
Okay, and then another question is that, current ITP trends, there's a supervision required. Who will be paying to this supervisor, or how they will get a supervisor, and then who will do the initial assessment?
So thank you. So we do feel that as part of that supervision period, there should be an assessment at the very beginning by the employer, the hospital or the FQHC or the health system, to get a sense of what does this physician actually know or not know or needs maybe some help with. But we don't tell them how often they should be assessing the physician or what that process entails. But we did give them some general guidance. The employer is responsible for the supervising physician. In a hospital, this may be a paid physician who already works at the hospital that the hospital has assigned to supervise the ITP. And of course, the ITP, the employer would have to pay for as well. So we don't get into those details on the advisory commission. We leave it up to the employer, but it's typically going to be the employer, presumably, that's going to be hiring the supervising physician, who again must be a physician and really should be in the same specialty, because how are you going to supervise somebody who's not in your specialty?
Exactly. And then the other question was that how the board holds supervisor accountable for fair to the ITP and safe for the public assessment of the ITP's ability to practice medicine.
So that's a great question. And really, it's up to the state medical board in terms of what kind of oversight they want to have. So we left the details up to the state medical board. But I'll give you an example. In Massachusetts, what they've done is they are willing, for those who are eligible, to give a 1-year limited license where you can be mentored by somebody. And that's a renewable license, meaning if after the end of the 1 year they feel, you need more sort of oversight, they can renew it for another year. And then once you've successfully completed the limited license, then you become eligible for a 2-year restricted license. You still have to work under the employer and you still have to be supervised. But that's how Massachusetts is doing it, by allowing a little period of renewal in case someone needs more time than that prescribed. But ultimately, the state boards, I think, as most people should know, we are complaint based. We don't oversee the practice of medicine at the bedside everywhere. We couldn't possibly, we don't have the resources. So we will be relying upon the employer and the supervisor to speak up and let us know if there are concerns, because there will definitely be people who are not able to successfully make it through the program, but others will be. So I think need to be some communications between the state medical boards and the employers and the ITPs.
Thank you. That was really informative. So now I will go to our panelist, and Dr. Amna Qureshi. She's an MD and she's a graduate of King Edward Medical University. She's a hematopathologist, St. Louis, Missouri, and she is the member of Liaison Committee, and she has few questions for you, Dr. Humayun. Go ahead, Dr. Amna.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Dr. Humayun and Dr. Sana, for taking out time for us today. And Dr. Humayun, your presentation was very, eloquent and, complete. And thank you so much for doing that for us. As you know, I've been working with APPNA YPC, Kamkana YPC for a long time. We review medical students and ITPs resume. We, take their mock interviews. We try our best, to facilitate them to get into residency programs. But there are a number of students who match, but some of them could not, and they want to pursue these alternative pathways. And I'm very thankful for all of your efforts, to come up with this alternate pathway. So now, people can, they get into other, ways so they can have their careers in the United States. In my capacity, I work with all the ITPs who want to have the career in the US. And, I came across multiple questions, and I think most of the questions have been addressed in your presentation. But there are certain things that, just for the sake of clarification, you mentioned about temporary license, that would be given to these ITPs. First of all, just for my own, clarification, is the subspecialty, whatever subspecialty, does it matter? Can radiologist work through this alternative pathway as a radiologist here, or if somebody is a trained ophthalmologist back home, can they follow this alternative pathway and work as an ophthalmologist here? So does the subspecialty matter? So that's one of my questions. And then as you mentioned about the gap, sometimes it takes over a year or maybe 2 years to come to United States, settle down, and then, apply for these licenses. Is there a minimum gap after they leave their own country of, origin or their own country of training, and then they come to US and then they apply for these licenses or these alternate pathways? What do you think is a safe gap? I mean, no gap is good, but still, during migration from one country to another, it takes some time. And is there a safe gap, I can say, that, after which, or, they will not be denied because of, moving gap? So that's another of my questions. And then verification process, their documents need to be verified from ECFMG, and what is the verification process of their training?
So thank you, Dr. Amna. You asked three very, very good questions. On the first one, the specialty, that's actually a critical question. If you talk to the folks in Tennessee, and I'm sure Oklahoma has the same situation, and you ask them, why in particular are you doing this? What are you hoping to obtain from this? They will say that our goal is to get primary care physicians to practice in our rural areas. So primary care physicians, as you know, are internal medicine, general internal medicine, family medicine, pediatrics, and some might include OBGYN. And yet, none of the 18 laws restricted to just internal medicine, family medicine, or pediatrics. So in theory, this is open to any specialty. And it's interesting, the very first, I don't even know if Dr. Sanaullah knows this, but the very first physician to enter one of these pathways was in Tennessee, happens to be a head and neck surgeon. So head and neck surgery is not a primary care field, and yet Vanderbilt University, I think, was the institution that needed that and was willing to employ someone who had the training from overseas for this particular pathway. So the goal is primary care, but it does not, as of now, exclude any other specialties. Having said that, and we talked about this a little bit before the call started, if you want to be a cardiologist, but you've only trained in internal medicine, by going through this pathway, you are not going to be eligible for a cardiology fellowship. This is not a residency program, and so you will not be able to ever practice cardiology, even though you did maybe internal medicine. You're hoping that this will be a pathway to get you to cardiology. You would still need to do residency to be eligible for that kind of a fellowship. So when you talk about subspecialties, if you've trained in cardiology overseas, that's a different story. If you are recognized in another country as being a qualified cardiologist, and you want to go through this pathway, your challenge will be to find an employer who needs a cardiologist, right, which may not be the case in your particular state. So I think there's going to be an issue there. On your second question about gap after leaving their country to apply, again, we decided after much discussion not to put a time limit on it. We leave it up to the states. As I said, right now, if you are a practicing physician in any of the 50 states or territories, I'm licensed in New York, for example, but New York is a separate matter, so I won't mention New York. But let's say in most states, if I leave the practice of medicine and I make my license inactive, I'm typically, in most states, you're allowed to leave practice for about 2 years. And if you come back within 2 years, they'll give you your license back right away. But in most states, if the gap has been more than 2 years, in some states it's 3 years, then they may require you to take an exam like the SPECS examination. They may require evidence of supervision or mentorship. They may require CME. They may require you to do things to prove that you still know your material. So our recommendation is the gap should be probably similar to what the state already requires of its own licensees, but ultimately that decision is up to the state boards if they want to be more flexible. And then finally, the verification process. Right now, the ECFMG for ECFMG certification does not look at training, because training doesn't matter for ERAS applications. What they care about is that you graduated from a recognized medical school that's listed in the world directory of medical schools. However, as this pathway is moving forward, ECFMG and their leadership have indicated to me that they will have to set up some sort of system to verify training overseas. My understanding is they have not done that yet, but they will be looking into that, because somebody has to look at the paperwork, and the state board can do it in the short term, but it would be helpful to have a centralized organization like ECFMG that has an understanding of what happens around the world.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Humayun. And as you said that, about the need, it's a need-based thing. Like over here, we need the primary care, but what is happening that primary care covers all, like OB, PD, ER, urgent care, and all that stuff. So even people, they have, clinical experiences that in certain areas, I think that will cover also for the primary care need, So our next, panelist will be from the Liaison Committee, Dr. Syed A. Naqvi, MD, graduate King Edward Medical University, Director, Hospitalist Division, Landmark Medical Center, Associate Professor, Brown University, and Johnson and Wales University, Assistant Professor, New York Medical College. And there you go, Dr. Syed Naqvi. He has some questions for Dr. Humayun.
Thank you, Dr. Afia, for wonderful introduction. And thank you, Dr. Humayun, for literally mind-blowing. Actually, it's as I see that this is probably in its early infancy, so some of the questions are still unanswered, and whoever is thinking of this, and they have their questions. So we have a few questions which we want. What is the thinking on the side of the state that the ITP should be working on? The first one that comes to mind naturally is that what will be the kind of scope of the work? Are they going to be full-fledged physicians, or is it going to be a limited practice with some limitations on it, so that they can do this and they can't do the other thing? And will it be under supervision for some time, or for quite a significant length of time? So these things are being asked of us from our overseas doctors who are practicing in other countries.
Thank you, Dr. Naqvi. Assalamu alaikum. So that's a great question. So during the period of whether it's a limited license or a restricted license or a provisional licensure, depending upon how the state defines that title, you will be presumably restricted to working under that employer's jurisdiction. So if it's a hospital, you will be limited to only working in that hospital. You will probably not be allowed to moonlight and do other things on the side, and you will not be allowed to go beyond what your employer tells you where you should work. It may be that if it's a health system, they may have multiple hospitals in the state, so they may move you from one state to another, but you will still be under the auspices of the employer. But once you complete the pathway, and someone asked a question I noticed in the chat about USMLE. To be eligible for these pathways, our recommendation, which most states have followed, is that you have to have step 1 and step 2 successfully passed. To get that full license to practice medicine at the end of these pathways, our recommendation is that the states require the last step of that USMLE, which is typically required of all other US graduates. And so if you pass step 3, you've completed the pathways successfully as defined by the employer and the supervisor working in collaboration with the state medical board. The goal is at the end of that pathway, you get a, quote, full and unrestricted license to practice medicine, meaning you can practice anywhere you like in the state. You can moonlight, you could work with another doctor, you could work in a clinic, you can open up your own clinic, you can do anything you like, but within that state, following state laws, of course. Now, I did mention that there may be restrictions on your ability to cross into another state, but you should be allowed to fully practice medicine just like any other physician once you've completed this pathway. The other difference is, and I'll mention it now, but you didn't ask about it, is specialty certification. So let's say you are trained overseas, let's say in pediatrics, and you go through this pathway and you work under the supervision of a pediatrician, and at the end of the period, someone feels, yes, you're a good pediatrician. Well, your job options may be limited because you may have successfully gone through this pathway and you have a license to practice medicine, but you don't have specialty certification. There may be many jobs that require for pediatrics to be specially certified in pediatrics. You don't have that. And so your options may be limited. And even though specialty certification is not required for licensure, as everyone should know, it is required by many employers. So that may be a rate limiting step. And finally, having said that, the American Board of Medical Specialties has put together a task force because they want to understand this pathway better. And as I mentioned, their CEO was on our advisory commission. There may be a possibility that in some specialties, depending upon the individual and their training, that the specialty board within ABMS may possibly allow them to sit for the specialty certification examination, even though they haven't done training in the US. It's not a done deal, it's being talked about, but it's a possibility because I think ultimately that may give that ITP more options for employment after they've completed the pathway than otherwise.
I have actually, I might have misheard it, but I just want to clarify this. You were talking about step 2 and step 3. So does that mean that after they have completed this pathway, they still have to go for step 2 and step 3?
No. To enter the pathway, our recommendation is that they take step 1 and step 2 CK and they pass them to be eligible to enter these pathways. Once they've entered the pathways, our recommendation is before they are handed a full license, they should successfully pass step 3.
Yeah. And during that, say they're working under supervision, will their salaries and everything will be, and the benefits will be similar to what a full-fledged MD is? Or
Great question, Dr. Naqvi. I don't think there's an answer. We certainly in the advisory commission don't dictate that, just like the ACGME does not dictate resident salaries. But it occurs to me, as I'm sure it does to everyone on this call, these individuals are not coming in as residents, but they're also not coming in as attending physicians. So presumably there will be some sort of salary or compensation that is somewhere in between. And we also have to figure out, what do you call these physicians? Can you call them Dr. So-and-so? They do have the medical degree, but the patients may be confused about what's an ITP. So I think there are still some issues that will need to be sorted out over time, but I think the salary is to be determined. And that's where we hope that they are not misused by being given, let's say, potentially salaries that are much less than even a resident makes. That doesn't make sense, but we don't go into the details. We leave it up to the state boards to work out with the employers.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Dr. Rafia, just one more question that how will, I think you have partially replied, already talked about this. How will the facilities review their overseas clinical experience? Will it be through the same way like FSMB does, or?
So it won't be the employer.
I had some of my experience was outside and I applied to that. I've forgotten the name now, but I had a clarification from them and a written certificate. Is it similar to that? How the facilities will determine?
So the employer will not be the one determining it. It's not up to the employer.
It's the state.
It'll be up to the state medical board to determine that, not the FSMB. Having said that, if it's a certificate or a completion of a residency, let's say they've done a residency, let's say in Pakistan, that presumably could be done by ECFMG, and they're looking into putting in place that kind of verification. They don't, sounds like they don't necessarily have that fully available right now, but it won't be the employer. And obviously the individual will want to demonstrate that they are ready for this, so they can certainly present whatever documents they have.
I have a quick comment. Dr. Naqvi, do you have more questions?
No, you carry on.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a very, very, infancy project. And as more things, as more time pass, things will unfold. One of the comments that I wanted to just bring in is like, once everybody who gets involved in this process, they complete their training, let's suppose of the alternate pathways, then the question will arise when you look for the jobs, even in the same state, let's suppose, then, when we apply job as an MD, they in the hospital, application, they ask, are you board eligible or are you board certified? So that is going to be one of the issues for these folks, because once they complete the training, are they going to be board eligible, or would they be able to sit for the boards and then they can get their certification? Because even in like regular hospital practice, if you are board eligible, you're supposed to give your boards within certain period of time. So that would be another issue that Dr. Humayun or Chaudhary will ultimately face in future.
So thank you, Dr. Amna. You're absolutely correct. Although the ABMS does not use technically the term anymore, board eligible, but you're right. It implies that it's pending.
Yes.
And many employers will expect that, even though it's not a requirement for licensure. It has become a requirement in many health systems and hospitals. I think we all know this, and there's nothing we can do about it at the FSMB. However, as I mentioned, the ABMS has a task force where they are studying this issue. They're exploring this issue. I think some of the specialty boards may be open to allowing qualified candidates to sit for the examination, which would be very helpful, I think, to enable them to have more options. But it doesn't mean you can't get any options, however, because presumably the hospital that has you as a supervised physician may want to hire you because they know what they're getting. There may be other opportunities in other fields that don't require specialty certification, but clearly there will be more options available if they have that credential.
Sounds good.
Thank you, everyone, for asking all these, very smart questions to Dr. Humayun and taking full privilege. Right now we are like, how to convey this message to our ITPs. And, we all know that it's a very multi-layered, complex process. There's a big promise there, and we are all very excited about it. And there's a lot of work, still in progress, and things are evolving. And who knows, when Dr. Amna asked this question, the board eligibility and stuff, who knows, like in next 4 or 5 years, if this whole process will be a success, so then maybe there's a next step, that why not a board certified, so I think these are still kind of gray areas and question, but at least we have started a process, and looking forward how to mitigate this shortage, how to help our community. So I think that's the basic goal right now we have. And thank you, Dr. Humayun. It was really very thought-provoking kind of session with you. Now we will go to Dr. Sanaullah. He is a proud graduate of National Medical University. He's an immediate past secretary of APPNA, and he did an awesome job there. And thank you, Dr. Sanaullah, for helping all of us, and he is the CEO of Optimum Care and board member of the Oklahoma State Medical Board. So I will reach out to Dr. Sanaullah and ask him, what the Oklahoma State Board is offering right now, and how you think this will be, kind of another opening for our ITPs, to help the shortage there in Oklahoma.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Kutab, Dr. Qureshi, and Dr. Naqvi. Dr. Chaudhary actually made my work very easy. He put a framework actually, and whatever I will be presenting for Oklahoma, that actually fit in that framework that he already presented. So I appreciate the Liaison Committee for arranging this. I think this is amazing. And a lot of our physicians and the applicants actually don't know this new pathway. So this will be a good way to give a very clear information about these alternate pathways. So I will be just focused on the alternate pathway that is recently approved in Oklahoma. I know there's 18 states, so every state is a little bit different. So I will just shortly present, and then we will go with the question answer. So the alternate pathways got approved in Oklahoma with the House Bill 2050 in November last year. It provides a pathway for a limited license to practice medicine in Oklahoma. The basic requirement is the same, but Dr. Chaudhary mentioned you have to be ECFMG certified. Here we do require step 3 also. and should have at least 3 years of post-graduate training. Limitations in this one is the only healthcare providers in the academic medical centers, and we have only two, is Oklahoma University and Oklahoma State University, who can offer the job through this pathway right now. The application fee is $500. That's non-refundable. And we still, as a board, we put some information on the website, but we are still in the process of creating applications, documents, and some rulemaking. But I'm happy to answer some more specific questions. If you have, I will stop here.
Thank you, Dr. Sanaullah. So I will ask my first question, in regard to this is that, what is the site for the application? What is the application fee? And as you said that it is not refundable, but let's see, what we can start with this, that where is the site for this application?
So the site of this application will be on the Oklahoma State Medical Board, but the application is not complete yet, so it's not available. Okay. Though we have decided the application fee will be $500, and that's non-refundable, but the application and the required documents is still in under review. But where you can start is important to know for the applicant. You won't start from the Oklahoma State Medical Board. You have to have a job offer first, even to apply the application. So at this point, if the interested candidates, they need to start looking into how they will get the job offer. And the job offer will be only available in Oklahoma University and Oklahoma State University at this point.
Thank you, Dr. Sanaullah. That's really, very important to know. The other question is that, what are the requirement in regards to the application credentials? Like, what is the verification process? What does the verification, and who does the verification?
Okay. I think Dr. Chaudhary answered this, and I will just put there again. The requirements are two basic requirements. One, you have to be ECFMG certified. That's number one requirement. The second is you should have at least 3 years of postgraduate training experience. These are the two basic requirements for the pathway in Oklahoma. And the board will do, Dr. Chaudhary mentioned that, so board will get the direct verification from the ECFMG, and also from the educational institutions, they will confirm their experience. But how we will do that is still in the process.
Dr. Sanaullah, will you be recognizing ACGMEI recognition countries?
That is not defined yet. So I think because we are in the process of rulemaking, so I think it's a good point. When it's coming, I will be asking that, and we will make sure that I put there to include that also.
And that was my next question. So thanks for asking. The next one, I have this question from lots of medical students and ITPs. How can I strengthen my CV to get the job through alternate pathways? Do I need to take the OET medicine even if I am a native English speaker?
So to strengthen the CV, I think they first have to complete all the USMLE exam. The first thing they need to start preparing when they are in the med school or early part of their postgraduate training, they need to start working, because this is the most, I think, the lengthy process to complete the USMLE exam. That's number one. Number two is, yes, they have to complete the OET exam. Even if they are proficient in English, they have to take that exam. And the third is, if they have completed the postgraduate training, I think if they have some US clinical experience in the concerned department where they want to get a job, for example, if they are a neurosurgeon and they want to come and pursue a career as a neurosurgeon, it's much better if at Oklahoma University or Oklahoma State University, they find some US clinical experience. That will connect them directly with the department chairs. If they're doing a good job, I think the chances of getting the job will be a lot easier if they have some US clinical experience.
That is awesome. The next question is that is an internationally trained physician who has not practiced medicine anywhere for 5 years eligible for these pathway? And if you have not been practicing medicine for more than 2 years, what is the option?
The first requirement is in the last 5 years, you have to have at least 3 years spent in the postgraduate training. That's a requirement. But yes, there is one exception the Oklahoma State Board is putting that is a part of this House bill on the Section 495H. That actually gives some options to these applicants if they are not practicing in the last 2 years. The board will put some competencies they have to complete, like what Dr. Chaudhary mentioned there. They might have to pass some exams to show the competency, but that process is not complete yet. But yes, there will be a process and pathway if you're not practicing in the last 2 years. There will be a process for them to complete some competencies.
And this is particularly from the Oklahoma pathway, am I right?
That is true.
Okay. And then if I need the visa, can I still get the job through alternate pathways?
I think Dr. Chaudhary already explained this. If you are a US citizen or have a green card, it's a lot easier to get through this pathway. But yes, the options are available on the visa also. It all depends if the institution is offering that visa or not, especially with the H-1 visa, 100,000 fee, and this will be a new H-1. So because of that, there will be some limitations. Yes, the options of J-1 is available, but that will be limited because the institutions are mostly keeping those for their fellows and residents. So it's still the option, but I think there will be a limited option.
And would they be able to bring their families?
Absolutely. If once they get the visa, it's the same like for any resident or fellow. If they have H1 or J1, they can bring dependent on them.
Okay. And then the other question is, do you need to provide verification of completing a 3-year postgraduate training program abroad or have practiced as a physician for at least 3 of the last 5 years outside USA?
Absolutely. And the board is making a rule how they will do the verification. But yes, the verification will be required from the institution directly and where their transcript and the educational experience. Or if they have an employer, it will be directly from the employer or the medical provider.
Thank you. And do you need a signed offer for full-time employment from an Oklahoma healthcare physician that operates an ACGME accredited postgraduate training program? And applicant must work under the supervision of a departmental chair.
That is true. So this is a little different than the other state. To apply for the limited license, you have to have a job offer first. And that is only in the academic institution, like I mentioned, Oklahoma University and Oklahoma State University. These are the two universities at this point are the academic medical center. They can only offer the jobs. And also for the supervision, the board made it very clear it has to be department chair as a supervision until you are on the limited license.
So Dr. Sana, why is the department chair?
Sorry, I was not part of when they were making this rule. So I will ask them the next time. But in Oklahoma, yes, there is a little restrictive pathway. And I think because it's a new pathway, they want to make sure that we are meeting all the supervisory requirement. And academic institutions are already, they make the rule for resident and fellows. So I think as a department chair, they're putting some responsibility there to make sure we are doing the proper supervision there.
Sure. And I think also knowing the dynamics of the, programs and residency or directors in the hospitals, like I think chair has a little bit more time for, admin time and stuff to, watch over them. I think that could be the one aspect of that too. How can I achieve full unrestricted license? And is it true that after 3 years, ITPs may be eligible for full unrestricted license?
Yes. So in Oklahoma, the limited license, the initial license or restricted license will be for 3 years. And if the applicant, the physicians, they do a great job and there is no pending investigations, they are in good standing, then they will be eligible to apply for unrestricted or full license after that.
That's awesome. And the last question from my end is that these are the questions I have. What are the major barriers or some practical challenges for the adoption of these Oklahoma pathway in regards to anything that you feel like that will be big for them to face there?
It's a great question. I think this is not just limited to Oklahoma. This is probably for overall all the pathways. These are the new pathways, and still there's a lot to learn from these, a lot to come on the rulemaking. In Oklahoma, because this is being offered just at the academic medical centers only, so the job opportunities definitely will be limited in the start. And the second is, it's a new pathway, so getting the liability insurance and proper coverage, a lot of malpractice insurance, actually, they don't know this pathway. So they have to create and add those associate physicians in the liability insurance, and how much liability will be coming on the supervising physician. So these definitely need to be worked out, and these are definitely posing some challenge for the adoption. The other major that I feel, because I'm in the private practice, I own a multi-specialty medical group. So if I hire these physicians, though I cannot at this point, but even in the future, if I hire, the major questions will be how I will be getting paid. If I'm paying these physicians, how my practice will be getting paid. So this is the biggest question. Even in some other states, for example, in Missouri, the only Medicaid is accepting right now. The other payers are not accepting them. They are still in the process. And I don't know about the Texas and the other states. So the major payer and insurance companies are not accepting this pathway. So I think this will be a major challenge even in the future until we figure out and all the federal insurance and the commercial insurance start accepting them. Then the adoption will be more actually in the future, but that's a limiting factor at this point. Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah,
The one more thing is, because we are bringing these ITPs directly into the US healthcare systems, they are not trained in the US healthcare system. So I think there will be we need to require more time to train them to get familiar with the US healthcare system. So that's also will be probably in the start, but probably not in the long term. And the visa is the major limiting factor that I already explained.
So you said it very well, Dr. Sana. The thing is this, they are not talking to each other kind of. Yes, here we are going very flexible with our residencies, pathways and stuff. And there we are putting this 100,000 kind of. So I think there's a tug there, and there's a message also. I don't know that, like, hey, we are thinking about it. We are creating these pathways, but you know what? It will be not that easy, because this side is like, visa issues and all that stuff. So it's not very kind of, on the same page kind of, picture here. The other thing is this, I think also the barrier will be that to get the liability insurance, that would be something because of the board certifications and stuff. Second is that mostly it is a federally funded healthcare centers. And whenever I talk to Congressman McGovern and Ed Markey, they are saying federal does not have that much money, So it is kind of a very, like a good initiative. But when you go into the deeper core of it, And that is, I think I would also convey this message to the ITPs in that way that, yes, it is there, but they should keep on building. If they get any opportunity beside this, they should go for it.
Absolutely. I think, from the applicant perspective, this is something really good that, is already, the option is there. But we also need to keep in mind, in American healthcare system, everybody want to play safe, The boards are trying to make sure whatever they approve, they are protecting, the communities and the patients.
Exactly.
And the same thing is from ABIM sides, same thing is from an insurance and liability insurance company sides, from the risk management side. So I think the process has already been started. It's going to take some time to work out all the details.
Exactly. Thank you, Dr. Sanat. So from my end, these were the questions. Then Dr. Amna will be asking you the questions, and then Dr. Syed Naqvi. And Amna, go ahead. You have some questions?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Sanat.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanala. It was a great, learning experience for ourselves. I have a few questions. One is that how long does it take for the application to get approved? Once, they apply, ITPs apply, then how long is it gonna be at your end for the application to get approved?
So I will say the applications, it will be just the general terms I will be saying, because when the other physicians who are fully licensed physicians are the resident after completing of their residency, they apply that. There's a lot, not a lot, I would say, there's some resident, they get delayed on their regular process also. So we need to look into what are those factors, and it will be the same factors here. For example, when they fill the applications, they're taking it very casual. They don't complete the full information. The board need the complete application so they can process that. The second thing is that a lot of time board, requires some supporting documents, and they just start sending one by one. That delay the process. It will be the same thing in this application. If your application is complete, you have a job offer, and you submitted all the required documents, then there should not be any reason to delay these applications.
Right. And so again, one thing is delaying the application. Can you shed some light on why you would reject an application?
I think there are some requirements for this pathway. And if you are not meeting those requirements, yes, the application will be rejected. You have to have ECFMG certification. You have to have a postgraduate experience within the last 5 years. If not, then you have to meet certain competencies. And most important, you need to have a job offer. So these are the three main criteria. And if you have, there is no other reason, unless when the board do investigations, they have to do the first source verifications, they have to do the background check. If something coming on that side in your background check, or the board is verifying your 3 years postgraduate experience, and their institution not sending a good report about that candidate, then that will be looked into very closely. So if you meet the criteria, your background is clean, then there should not be any problem. But when there is a rejection, there is always a reason for that. And this is true for regular other applications also.
And if I could add, I think it's also important, wouldn't you agree, Dr. Sanaullah, that accuracy of information.
Right.
If you are off by a year, that could create a problem. And if it can't be sorted out, your application could, in theory, be denied because there's a discrepancy.
Absolutely,
Yes.
Dr. Chaudhary. And this is, Dr. Qureshi, if you give me a second on this one, it's extremely important step, Nowadays, there is some sharing of information, If you are coming from New York State Medical Board and you applied a license in Oklahoma will be requesting some document from New York State Medical Board. If you filled a different application there, different information there, and you're putting it's different here. What Dr. Chaudhary mentioned, you're just off by a year. This is important. So make sure the information that you're giving is accurate and that's consistent across different boards.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, you have to be honest about everything. People try to find shortcuts and, they hide some things in their application. I feel like, if they don't tell the truth, they'll ultimately get caught. So I feel like you have to be very honest when filling these documents, and it's very important. It's patient care at the end of the day. So you don't want to get barred from that board for the rest of your life, because if you have these kind of restrictions in one board, anytime we fill any board application, they'll always ask, do you have like something of some kind of restriction from another board? So unless you have to be very clear, I feel like it's very important for all of us to be very honest in these documentations.
Absolutely.
I think that's about it. One last question is, are you working or will you be working in future to come up with, list of supervisors, who will offer these, job opportunities? Because, in your university setting, there is only one chair, but there will be many students who will be, or many ITPs, I must say, they will be applying. So how many, he can take under his umbrella, he or she can take under his umbrella? There has to be more people who need to chime in and, who have to volunteer as the supervisors. So maybe in future, if that's a goal for the board to, provide more supervisors so they can, take more of these candidates under their supervision.
Dr. Qureshi, providing the supervisor is not the responsibility of the board.
Right.
The board have to have a job offer to complete that application. So it's basically the institutions, and it's a demand and supply,
Right.
If a neurosurgery department is having difficulty recruiting a neurosurgeon, and they find this, they come to know about this pathway, and they have an applicant who is trained in Pakistan, who's trained in UK, and now he's applying, and I'm pretty sure they will be interested in that. So it all depends on the demand and supply, but the supervising physicians won't be coming from the board. It's the responsibility of the institutions, and the applicants need to find them.
Thank you so much.
So, Dr. Sana, this is something, the same part of this, like, we are trying to get these ITPs for the underserved areas, okay? If there is a condition that there will be the chair of the department who has to supervise, how, knowing the dynamics of the hospitals or dynamics of the tertiary cares or all these health centers, how that would be going to align with that?
That's a very good question. Actually, I also was thinking when I saw this House Bill 2050 that is only limited to the academic centers. So how we will go in and place these positions in underserved areas. So you just need to keep in mind these tertiary care physicians, they have outreach also. For example, recently we approved a physician on alternate pathway, a limited license we approved. He was a transplant physician, and the system approached us that they want to increase their availability of transplant program in their other areas where their transplant physicians might go and screen those patients if they are sick for the transfer. So that gives an opportunity, like that tertiary care hospital will be going in these smaller hospitals, and these physicians might go there and screen those patients, but still under supervision of their department chair. So, the other example is that the chair of Department of Medicine, he is the chair for whole department. They have a lot of rural clinics. They have clinics in smaller areas, but the chair is the same. So that supervision will be coming under that chair, but they have a lot of outreach clinics where they can place these physicians.
Oh, yeah, that is another way to think about. And then the question is that, now we are like, like working with our, nurse practitioners. Okay. Most of the health centers, they have nurse practitioners. And now this is an ITP there, so how that is going to work together?
I think we should not think that these physicians will be competing with a nurse practitioner. Their scope and their training will be totally different. It's just a learning curve. I don't have the probably answer for this one.
Yeah.
But I think once we place these physicians in the tertiary care centers and academic centers, and they have a good experience with these physicians, they will hire more. And if they don't have a good experience, that might cause a problem for incoming physicians, So I think our message should be for all these our ITPs, if they come, I'm pretty sure they do a great job already, and they will do a great job. So they open up more avenues for their incoming fellows. I think with the time, once we know more, once the system will learn, the adoption will be more. But I don't see there is any competitions with the PAs or the nurse practitioners through this route.
That's what we can hope, and they will be addressed as physicians. Am I right? Like,
most of the states are, I think every state is a little different on this one. Ultimately, what they will be called, but most of the states are calling them as associate physicians. And once they have a full license, they will be physicians, the doctors. But as a limited license, in the initial term, they are being called in most of the state as associate physicians.
And now we will go to Dr. Syed Naqvi. He has a few questions for Dr. Sana. And then if we have time, maybe we can take a few questions, but otherwise we will wrap it up.
So basically, I mean, after all this discussion, most of the questions which I have are already been addressed. But there is a few things that come into mind. Do you have any examples of somebody successfully? Are there any, or is it just started? This is what I want to know. Are there any physicians who are working like this right now?
Yes.
Okay.
So
quite a significant number.
Even before this is an alternate pathway, just got approved. We had some exceptions even before. If the academic medical center is coming to us and asking some exceptions, the board look into those applications. So through those exceptions, we have some examples and know those exceptions will be fitting in this alternate pathway.
Yeah, okay. So that's one thing. The other thing is that is inevitably going to happen. People who come here, they got a preliminary post. And after preliminary, there's no way they can get into the second year post, and they are stuck. And they will eventually be looking into whether I can go into the alternative pathway. Is there anything that stops them from doing it? Somebody who's done a residency preliminary post and is not getting anywhere.
They just have to meet the criteria. Yes, that is, they can come to this pathway, but they have to meet the criteria. The criteria are, they are ECFMG certified, so that they are meeting the criteria. But on the clinic experience, postgraduate experience, they need to meet that. If they are meeting, then they can apply to this pathway.
Yeah, okay.
So like we are in the 3 years. I'm sorry, Dr. Naqvi. You're saying requirement is the 3 years. So if suppose he has done or she has done 1 year prelim, and now there is shortage of 2 more years of the experience, so that still will not be the eligibility.
That is true. But most of the physicians, our applicants who are coming to US, they are also doing 1 year internship, house job. And some of them, until they get the visa, they start their training there. So if they have some experience there and 1 year of internal medicine here, and I think they can make a case if they have those 3 years experience. But definitely it will vary case to case and applicant to applicant, this one.
Thank you. And go ahead, Dr. Naqvi, you go ahead.
Yeah, one more question. I mean, most of these have been answered anyway. Is there an in-person jurisprudence exam that they will be required to do? When I was
Yes.
doing my Texas license, I had to do this jurisprudence exam. I don't know how I passed it, but I did. So it wasn't fun. So do they have to do that?
For all the other license, we do have that requirement because we are still in the process of rulemaking for this alternate pathway. I think it will be there, but because it's not final, so I cannot comment on that. My assumption is that probably it will be there because we already have as a required exam for all the rest of the board license.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have a question for Dr. Hamayo. It says, does it needs first to do all of the 3 steps if someone do not want to do clinical as attending physician?
So I don't fully
Anyone?
understand the question, but as Dr. Sanawala just said, sounds like in Oklahoma, you have to do all 3 steps to be qualified to even enter the pathway.
Yes.
Our recommendation, I think most other states are requiring step 1 and step 2 because those are part of the ECFMG certification. Step 3 would come after you've entered the pathway. So it depends on the state.
And Dr. Sanawala, this is a question for you. I want to ask if I am an IMG and got training in some program like in pathology, completed 1 or 2 years of training in home country and mention in match about pathology training in home country and apply for the internal medicine in US, will this affect match cycle?
I don't know if
Or maybe Dr. Hamayo, like...
maybe Dr. Hamay, you can answer. I did not get the question even. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't fully follow, but obviously there should be a match between what you've done overseas for training and what you're doing for this pathway. If you are applying for ERAS for a traditional residency application, you're more than welcome to apply for whatever you like. But I think for this type of pathway, the state boards are generally looking for previous training in the same field for which you are now seeking to be supervised to get a license.
That is true.
Okay, there's another question. If Dr. Sana wants to take it, and Dr. Hamayo, it says, a candidate with a hand amputation, sorry about that. Candidate with a hand amputation want to do internal medicine. Will the state or hospital of match committee will comment on this issue?
I can comment on that. He will not be excluded based on disability. Yes, he has to meet all the rest of the requirement, but he won't be excluded because of this.
Yeah, there's a federal law called the Americans for Disabilities Act, and so that applies across the board. Even to sit for the USMLE, there are exceptions made fairly routinely for all sorts of disabilities. So I wouldn't say that we are in a position to say that you can or cannot or should not apply, but and there's no guarantee that you will get the position, but it should be based on merit.
Okay, thank you. And then another question for Dr. Sanawala is that what did Dr. Sanawala mean by US clinical experience?
It's the same like we do the US clinical experience to apply for ERAS also. Like I gave an example, if a neurosurgeon from Pakistan who has a good training wants to come to US to this alternate pathway, and he contact the neurosurgery department, he is on visa. And if he does some work even as an observer in that department, and I think the chances of knowing the people more and through those connections and experience, there is a good chance that if he's a qualified candidate, he get connected with the chair, he get connected with the other attending, the chances of job offer will be a lot better for that candidate as compared to the one where program actually have no clue. So I think if you have some US clinical experience, if you are able to get that, I know it's not going to be easy, but if you are able to get even as an observer, I think that will be very beneficial.
And then the question for Dr. Hamayo, what is the best way to search for job offers?
I don't have an answer to that one yet because it's still being worked out by the states. And I think the states will have to determine, the state medical boards in particular, will have to determine the employers, just like Oklahoma did first. So before you start calling hospitals, make sure the state is offering the program, make sure the state is in the process of putting together an application. The state medical board ultimately, in most jurisdictions, will decide who qualifies as an employer. In some cases, like in Massachusetts, the focus is not on whether or not it's a university program. It must be in a health professional shortage area.
Exactly.
So that's the other part of this, is they want people to go to those areas, as I showed earlier, where there's a need. So before you start making phone calls, find out what's happening in the state you're interested in, and then at least wait for the application and see if the state board has determined what kind of employer would be appropriate.
Okay, and I see a hand up there. It says Rehan raised hands. Can we talk to the participant, or how it goes?
Oops, sorry.
Oh, it says any opportunity for anesthesia aspirant with 4 years anesthesia residency in Pakistan.
I can take this. It's the same pathway, exactly what we are talking about. If he meets all the requirement as an ECFMG requirement, and he has a 4 years postgraduate training experience, that's great. And he needs to just find the job offer and then can apply.
Dr. Sanaullah, would he in Oklahoma also be required to not only complete his anesthesiology residency in Pakistan, but also be licensed in Pakistan by PMDC and also be practicing for at least a couple of years?
Practicing for, yes, at least 2 years in the last 5 years.
So not just completion of residency. I
Yes.
think that point is important because there's an expectation and our recommendation on the advisory commission that they be not just trainees and residents, but graduates of training programs and basically attending physicians in their country for at least a couple of years with a bona fide license to practice in their home country.
That is true.
Okay, thank you. And the last question I have is there that if the employer is paying for the visa, and if you don't like the program and the supervisor, can you leave the program? And what is the penalty?
Dr. Chaudhary, you want to take this question?
I don't have an easy answer because it's still hypothetical at this point. But I think that goes back to my point about we hope that the collaboration between the employer, the state board, will lead to an understanding of how this should be done. We are concerned about exploitation of ITPs who thoughtfully, with good intentions, enter this program. And we want to make sure their rights are not restricted, that they have equal opportunities to others, and including how many hours they work and under what conditions, and do they have benefits and things like that. So we just make a broad statement, but the details are up to the state board working in collaboration with the employer.
And there's a question just came for Dr. Sanaullah. So Dr. Sanaullah, what are the prospects for FCPS consultant radiologists in Oklahoma?
It's the same. If they have already the degree and they're practicing, they're ECFMG certified, then both OSU and OU, they have their radiology programs. So, and actually radiology is one of the specialty where they need more radiologists. So there will be definitely a case there but they need to wait right now. Our request, everyone, the rulemaking is not final. Application is not final. So please don't reach out OU or OSU at this point. Just keep following the Oklahoma State Medical Board website. And as soon as the rulemaking is final, application is final, it will be posted there. But to answer that question, yes, there is a good chance once the application is completed to apply through that route.
Yeah, people are saying that we are not able to get the passcode, so we have lots of questions. So what we can do, that there is one, it says, is any specific suggestion by you, respected people, to struggle for get residency in dermatology or radiology, and how to make a strong CV? So I think that is not to this kind of, today the talk, but maybe sometime we are planning to do our next session with Dr. Humayun Chaudhry with the USMLE and, the physician assistant program and stuff. That will be coming next month somewhere, end of or beginning April. But I think we have learned a lot from Dr. Humayun and Dr. Sana. I think as me being like here for 30 years, and working in this system, and we all know that there is a shortage. We know that we need doctors, but as Dr. Sanaullah was saying, and Dr. Humayun and Dr. Amna, and that we need to be also play safe also, that we get very excited about things, but whatever we want to do and help people, but one thing we have to be mindful about this, that we have to follow the safety of the people and to resolve this issue in a safer way. So it's not that simple, and we are keeping in that mind that everything should be covered, in this kind of aspect of the safety of the ITP and the safety of the public. So that's one thing very, very important. So I think, do you, Amna or Dr. Syed, do you have anything to say, like when we are finishing this, and then we can ask both the speakers if they have any advice for us?
No, I think most of the things have been addressed and answered. So this is still in an infancy, and as time comes, then the starting point is there. There are websites, and then you find a job, have the requirements completed, and then contact the programs and do networking, whatever you want to do, and get an offer, and then apply to that, and then hope for the best, and just try your best. That's what I can say. And we will find out as time goes, as happened with everything else. New rules will come with new challenges and so on. So.
Exactly. And Amna, do you have anything to say?
I think it was a wonderful discussion today. I really want to thank Dr. Sanaullah and Dr. Chaudhry for their time. We learned a lot, and I feel like it's a very, I'm very excited about the program, but it's still like, evolving program, as Dr. Naqvi mentioned, and it's a great opportunity, but we'll find out with visa restrictions and all that. And but the best thing is that this option exists, and we need to make people aware that, if you don't get into residency, it's not the end of the world. This is something that they can pursue, and they can ultimately work like any other MD in future. So it's a very great initiative by FSMB and by all the medical boards, and I hope a lot of literally all of the medical boards will ultimately join this, to address the workforce shortage. And I also believe truly from my heart that there will be guidelines, proper guidelines, so the ITPs do not get abused. And, there will be guidelines that the nurse practitioners don't compete with the ITPs. Because I've heard some things that, there's already a competition between ITPs and the nurse practitioners, but this is a talk for another day. But all I feel is that this is a great opportunity, and this option we need to put in so our ITPs from Pakistan especially, they don't lose hope. They really worked hard for USMLEs, and if they don't get matched, so what? It's not the end of the world. It's going to help with a lot of mental health issues also, that people think that, okay, so now I haven't matched, I'm done. No, this is another opportunity that is waiting for you. So sky's the limit. It is something that all of us are looking forward to it, and I'm sure Dr. Chaudhry will ultimately give us more details as the things unfold. So thank you so much for doing that for us.
Yeah, I also want to thank Dr. Humayun Chaudhry and Dr. Sanaullah for this mind-blowing and really mind-opening or horizon-opening talk.
Yeah.
Thank you so much you guys are helping a lot, and I'm pretty sure that you will be doing the same thing. Keep on doing that. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
And Dr. Humayun, any advice, anything like, for future reference or anything like that?
Sure, thank you. Just two quick comments as my cat jumps off my lap.
I saw that.
One is the FSMB is happy to be a part of this process, but I should point out we did not create this idea. This idea came from the state boards who were really looking to address an issue. And we were happy to provide some guidance about how best to do this, but this is not something that we are necessarily saying is the best way to address the physician workforce shortage. We think there are also additional ways, increasing more residency spots and making sure there are more funded positions, maybe a more faster way, but this is certainly worth exploring. And second, this is quite different. While people may not know this, but it's always been possible for internationally trained physicians to get licensed in the US, but you had to be the best in your field. You had to be like someone who's recognized full professor of medicine or something like that. So this is quite unusual. For the first time in nearly 70 years in the United States, we are beginning to talk about a pathway that could lead to those who are trained overseas to have a pathway to licensure in a way that was not possible for, as I say, nearly 70 years. So happy to share with you more information as we learn more and as more becomes available. Thank you so much, Dr. Rafia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dr. Sana, any advice?
Thank you, Dr. Rafia. I think APPNA getting involved in this, actually this is a platform we can actually provide this information. So the one suggestion will be maybe on APPNA website, we can probably put some information on alternate pathway. And as we're getting more information, we'll keep updating that page. So that way it will help our physicians, especially the Pakistani physicians, to know more about and remain updated about any new pathway coming or more information coming on the existing pathways.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It was really, really, kind of, informative and, like opening all the other kind of, brainstorming that what next, what we can do, what things are waiting for us. And especially in Ramadan, we are doing this and Saturday afternoon now, so taking time away from our families too. But we are really wishing the best for these ITPs. I remember my time. We all remember our times. It was not easy, and it is easy to say to ourselves, that we will find something else. But once you all your life you study to become a physician, so then you feel like I put my 100% there, So, but let's keep sorting it out, and be there for them, and let's hope for the best. And thank you, everyone. Really appreciate all your time there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Khuda Hafiz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Allah Hafiz.